Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Long Coffee Break. My name is Andrew Tobin. I'm a sales engineer here at Long. Today we are joined by Jessica Tomczak with Denlar Fire Protection. She's going to be talking about the Denlar pre-engineered range hoods. Jessica, go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know, I've been with Denlar for about 7 years. I'm the sales manager here. I'm going to go kind of quick to try and give you as much information as I can, but please feel free to contact Long with any questions you have, or you can contact me directly. So first, I want to talk about why Denlar exists. You may or may not know somebody who's been affected by cooking fire, but they can truly affect anyone. For example, my father actually fell asleep cooking chicken and almost had a fire. He woke up and the house was full of dark smoke, and he was probably about 2 minutes away from having a cooking fire. So the chances of them happening are very real. With over 50% of all residential buildings fires being caused by cooking, and over 29% of cooking fires being caused in non-residential buildings, it's the #1 cause of a fire in a building, without a doubt. And if you look at specific types of buildings, those numbers can actually get even scarier. So we have about 87% of cooking fires are responsible for all cooking fires in a dormitory. If you look at off-campus housing, those numbers are actually even scarier. So cooking fires are a very real thing that needs to be protected against. So Denlar is listed a UL 300A. In order to understand 300A, I like to take a step back and look at UL 300 because that's what we're based off of. So a UL 300 system is what you're going to find in a kitchen, in a cafeteria. And it's going to be a pre-pipe system. You notice that there's multiple types of appliances there. There is a deep fryer, a grill, a griddle, there's a pull station, and it's a wet media system that's going to discharge. Those are important things. So what we did is we took all of that and we put it into a scaled down hood to make our UL 300A hood. The real caveat for being 300A versus 300 is 300A can only protect a residential range when the cooking is not for profit. So that means that they can't be selling what they're cooking to make money. Doesn't mean the business can't be for profit, but they can't be making money off of the food that they're cooking. So UL put out an outline of investigation for what the requirements to be listed in 300A. And those testing requirements are important to know just to understand what's behind the system itself. So UL requires the testing to occur just the way it would in the field. They're the same height, ambient temperatures at 80 degrees. You're using a typical 4-burner range, and it's a like-sized range, which is important to know. There's no draft, the fan can't be on, and we're literally lighting different pots and pans of various types of oil on fire, waiting for the system to put the fire out, which totally goes against your instinct, which is to put out that fire as soon as possible. It's a pretty rigorous process. So our first product that came out was our Denlar D1000. It's designed to protect a 30 or a 36-inch range, and it provides a fail-safe actuation, which means that there's no electricity, battery backups, or anything needed. We actually use a fusible link in the D1000 in order to put out that fire. It has a fully integrated suppression system, and it has stages of pre-suppression. So there's 2 temperature switches that are going to activate when the temperatures or preset temperatures are reached, and they're going to activate the fan. The second one's also going to sound some alarms, shut down power to the stove. It's a last-ditch effort to try to prevent that fire from actually occurring. In addition, there's environmental monitoring. So the system is actually going to be looking for things that prevents it from putting out that fire properly. So quick example is if somebody came, they serviced the system, and they left the service switch on, or they didn't put the discharge hose back on properly, the system is actually not going to allow them to cook because it wouldn't be able to put out the fire properly. So the D1000 is our original UL 300A hood. It was launched in 2007, and it was originally, and it was actually the basis of design behind the NFPA 101 Life Safety Code. So we do have that compliance. That's Chapter 18. It's predominantly for residential healthcare. In addition, we're recognized by the ICC with the PMG listing. It's PMG 1122. And there's actually a document that the ICC put out, LC 1031, which explains exactly where we can be used in the different international codes we comply with. But we have compliance with International Mechanical Code, Fire Code, and Uniform Mechanical Code. Chapter 4 and Chapter 9 of the Mechanical Code both reference 300A, so that's really important. So type of occupancies, you see 300A and I1, I2, and R2 are specifically listed, just as some examples. Certainly not limited to that though. So the D1000 is going to come with 3 globe fusible links, including one in the plenum of the hood, and we'll have either 4 or 5 discharge nozzles, including that one in the plenum as well. But the reason why we put a link in a nozzle in that plenum is to try to prevent any potential duct run fires from actually occurring. The D1000 has multiple alarm outputs. So it has a dry contact to tie into a fire alarm system, and it also has an electronic connection at the PLC. It's available with multiple options and accessories. So the first one is that NFPA 101 upgrade. Okay, so what we're going to do is we actually package our hood with the other things that are needed to be compliant with NFPA 101. So in order to be compliant, you have to have a 120-minute timer, which is where our clock box comes into play. You have to have you have to have a manual pull station, and you have to have minimum of 500 CFM. So we're actually going to increase the airflow of the fan when we're providing that upgrade. We also have this ability to have that pull station as a standalone option, handicap accessible controls, the clock box or clock box pro, which I'll talk about a little bit more after. We also have the ability to have a limiting speed controller. So for example, that might be used if you have an application that didn't need NFPA 101 compliance, and they wanted to set the maximum CFM output of the hood to 399. That way they don't need to install a makeup air system. We also have the ability to tie into a makeup air system or to control a damper. We have multiple fan options, including internal fans, which provide a recirculating or a rear discharging option. And then we have ducted options, which include a wall-mounted fan, roof-mounted fan, or an inline fan. If for some reason those fans wouldn't meet the needs of the requirements, we actually offer the ability to use a third-party fan as well. Our product comes standard with a 3-year product warranty with an optional extended 3-year product warranty, which is far longer than any other warranties in the product category. And it comes standard with National Sanitary Foundation. So basically that's an improved sealant, seal any cracks or crevices to prevent any cooking debris from getting trapped and creating an unsanitary cooking environment. From there, we have our designer series. So if you think of the D1000 as a scaled down commercial hood, the designer is a little bit more scaled down than the D1000. So it's maintaining that fail-safe actuation method, that in that fully integrated suppression system. It has a dry alarm contact, and it's designed to protect a 30-inch range. But we actually are not providing the stages of pre-suppression in that environmental monitoring within the D1000, the designer, sorry. So the designer series is introduced in 2010. It's designed to be used either as a recirculating or top discharging option. That top discharging has the ability to have an inline fan as well. The designer uses 2 glass fusible links. They're 250-degree links, so providing that mechanical option. And that's important, again, that mechanical actuation is a spec lock, in case you weren't aware. There's 2 discharge nozzles and 1 hard alarm output. The designer series is available with the manual pull station, handicap accessible controls, the clock box, and a 2-year product warranty with the optional extended 3-year warranty. We do not currently have any island units specifically, but I have heard of our D1000 being used in that type of installation with like a drop-down soffit. I had a question come in on that. I certainly can have more of a conversation on that offline. We have heard of that being used, and I think I might have some drawings available as well that they had sent. The clock box is a timer, which requires the user to enter a password. So they're going to enter a 5-digit password on the touch screen. And what it does is it actually controls the power of the range itself. So it unlocks the power to the range, and it comes preset with a 120-minute timer. The reason for that is because that's the time that's required to be compliant with NFPA 101. If they are using the clock box outside of NFPA 101 compliance, they can certainly change that time in the field, but it is required for that compliance. So this is designed to prevent unattended and unauthorized cooking. In addition to being used with our hoods, I've seen them be used in places like home ec classroom. We've had them go in assisted living facilities. We had over 100 go into a facility a couple years ago in New York that they wanted to protect it, but they didn't want to put in suppression hoods because they already had hoods installed. So this is another method of protection. And then there's our ClockBox Pro. So in addition to requiring a password to unlock the stove, that preset amount of time, this also offers light and fan control. So it can actually act as handicap accessible controls if the touchscreen is mounted where it's accessible. We can provide system analysis, so we can actually monitor for all of the things that the D1000 is looking for through that touchscreen visually. And it has the ability to tie into a building monitoring system. So think like a BACnet system or something similar. You can also temporarily bypass. So if you suspect that you might have a bad pressure switch, for example, you can temporarily bypass that to verify that's the issue before they have maintenance come out and order the wrong part or anything. So it's to save time and it'll save money too in the long run. In addition, the ClockBox Pro can also take tones. So what that means is that for a firehouse, for example, when they get that emergency call, it's called tones, and it comes through, it can take that input signal and shut down the stove automatically. So they can rush to the fire without having to worry about the firehouse itself burning down, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, happens a lot. So the systems are all designed to be simple to install, but it's important to know what's required and who's involved. So a lot of times you're going to have an electrician involved for any wiring needs. Depending on the type of range you're protecting, you might have an electrician or a plumber. And then you'll have HVAC involved with any ductwork. And if any testing is needed or any permitting, certification, things like that, that's done by a fire suppression contractor. There's a couple of different types of testing that can be done. The first one is a functionality test. This would be using pressure switches and the service switch. So you're actually testing the system to see how it is able to perform and make sure that the function of the system is proper. And then the second is a discharge test. This is done with a nitrogen only test tank. And this is how you're going to test the system without actually discharging that chemical media. And that's what is mostly required if it's required by an AHJ. That testing would be performed in front of that AHJ, which is authority holding jurisdiction. And it's typically required to be done by a fire suppression contractor because it's considered interaction with that fire suppression system. So few places you might see a DENLAR installed, assisted living facilities, residential healthcare, memory care, firehouses, churches, break rooms, long-term stay hotels. Really, the applications are endless. This happens to be a picture from a life skills classroom of an installation. So you can see what a real life installation looks like. But really, the opportunities are pretty much endless. Again, limited to when they are not cooking on a commercial stove and they are not selling what they're cooking for a profit. So there's a couple things to consider when specifying is you want to make sure you're specifying the correct disconnect. So we'll ask for the receptacle type. That is to In order for our system to work properly, we're controlling the fuel source of the range. We need to know what type of receptacle that range has to provide the correct one. We do automatically provide that 1450 receptacle, but we have the other options in case they're needed. In addition, a fan is needed. So either you would need a module to use a third-party fan or a supplied fan. So it's important to make sure that that's specified as well. In addition, we have a guide spec available, which is full of spec blocks and useful information for when you're specifying the systems. So to summarize the safety benefits, Denlar is trying to prevent that fire from actually occurring with stages of pre-suppression. We are controlling who has access to cooking and for how long to prevent unattended and unauthorized cooking with the ClockBox and the ClockBox Pro. We provide a mechanical actuation with the fusible links, meaning there's no electricity or battery backups needed. Again, that's something that nobody else in the product category currently offers. And here I just have a couple quotes. I think it's important to see what other people are saying about products. So the first one here is from a fire marshal at the University of Oklahoma. This was after an installation was successfully completed. And he said that I can say I've been impressed with the product. The commissioning of the 13 hoods we recently installed in our new residence hall was a piece of cake. The system appears to be easy to test and inspect also. And the second quote is from one of our direct customers. This was in response to our lead time and said that this is one of the many reasons I love Denlar. Amazon Prime is barely 10 days at this point. Well. So always good to hear what other people are saying. And yes, our lead times are really 10 days right now. With that, I'll leave my contact information up for just a second so you have that. Thank you all for your time and back to you.
Thank you, Jessica. That was really good information. I appreciate you being our co-presenter for today's coffee break. Join us next week. Sean Davenport-Smith is going to be talking about the Link Element Q. It's a water heater wellness package that we're coming out with. Some good information on that.